For more on 2024 campaign politics, let's bring in our political panel. With me today is the Vogel Group principal, Bill McGinley, and Democratic strategist, Jim Kessler. Gentlemen, welcome. Let's start with former President Trump last night in Michigan on the New York ruling.
The case was brought under a consumer fraud statute that has never, ever been used before for this purpose. And not one case was ever brought like this in the history of New York State. This is the only one. I wonder if they were doing that for political purposes or for election interference.
How do you see it, Jim?
Well, he's talking about Section 62B, which has been used many times. I read the entire decision there. I don't think this is going to hurt Trump politically, certainly not in a Republican primary. But reading that decision, one of the things that stood out to me is Trump's biggest problem isn't the judge. It's that the people who worked for him are the ones that testified against him. And if you look at it, and you look at some of the other cases, the Jack Smith case, which is going to be about January 6th, and the Georgia case, his biggest problems there are the people that worked for him or part of the Republican team testifying against him. So it's not the judge, it's the people kind of inside the room that are the problem for him.
All right, let's take a listen to our Fox News contributor and legal expert, Jonathan Turley.
He just imposed damages the equal of the GNP of Micronesia. And the question is, what's the basis for that? You just imposed $350 million or more in damages, plus another $100 million that's going to come from interest, in a case where there was $0 lost by the banks.
Bill, what's your assessment?
Look, I think the big thing unsaid by the Democrats is that each of these cases is brought by a partisan prosecutor, either in New York, Georgia, Jack Smith, who is operating under the Biden DOJ. And we really do see the weaponization of the legal system against the leading opposition candidate to the current president of the United States. And I think voters see through this. And every real estate developer in New York is probably reading that decision and shaking in their boots right now because, as the former president said, this has never been done before. And how many of these major Democratic donors have done the same thing? Not one bank wasn't repaid. They were all repaid with interest on time. They testified in favor of former President Trump. So where is the damage?
The story's red hot on social media. Private equity fund manager Grant Cardone writing the following, quote, regarding Trump's $355 million judgment, I've bought over $5 billion of real estate in my career. Every loan requires by law the lender to get an independent appraisal, including an estimate of the property's value. My estimate of value does not and cannot make for fraud. Jim, what about that argument?
Well, I'm not going to comment on the size of the fine. That's up to the judge. But when we say that this is a victimless crime, if you look at the 2008 financial crisis, the entire 2008 financial crisis is because real estate was misvalued and in a lot of times fraudulently valued. So it's not that this couldn't be a problem. These are ticking time bombs. Trump very badly mishandled this case. You know, if you read through the decision, no remorse, no contrition, no admitting that anything's wrong. He's his own worst enemy in this sort of thing, and he's paying the price.
I got to jump in here because the 2008 financial crisis was liar mortgages, where people not paying back the money that they borrowed. Here, everybody was paid back. And as the tweet you just read said, the banks did an independent, objective review of the properties to determine whether or not they were a good bet for them to lend the money. They came back and said yes. So in terms of the victims of this, really what it is a partisan play to impose a process penalty on the former president to make sure that he is fighting as many lawsuits as possible to drain his resources so he can't focus on the campaign and going after President Biden and his failed policies, as instead he's in the courtrooms trying to defend himself.
The 2008 financial crisis was because of misvaluations of real estate on a rampant level, like we were just seeing in New York City with Donald Trump, in which the banks turned their back because for years and years they were getting paid, but suddenly when they weren't getting paid, the whole system collapsed. So, maybe there weren't any victims yet, but when you are saying a 11,000 square foot building is actually 30,000 square feet, like that's fraud.
Final word.
Okay.
The judge said that Mar-a-Lago was worth maybe $18 million. There have been properties that were recently sold in the area that were a fraction of the size, fraction of the square footage of the building, that were hundreds of millions of dollars. This judge did not rely upon anything that any objective lender would look at to try and determine the valuation of the property. And in fact, he's relying on the partisan Letitia James, the New York AG, to come in and really who campaigned on getting Trump. What she is doing is she is doing the lawfare to drain his resources, and nobody should lose sight of that. It's the reason that Trump keeps going up in the polls, Biden keeps falling, and no matter what they try and throw at him, people understand this is all political. It's not about the rule of law.
Bill McGinley, Jim Kessler, you brought your A game. Thanks, gentlemen. Thanks very much.